Today's guest is Catherine Joy White. Kat is an actress, producer, author, and gender advisor for the United Nations. If that's not enough, Kat runs her own production company, Kusini Productions, which is dedicated to creating opportunities, changing the narrative, and championing the voices of Black women and girls. In 2022, she was included in Forbes magazine's 30 Under 30 list. Her first book, This Thread of Gold, a celebration of Black womanhood, provides an inspiring look at how Black women have, through history, found a way to survive and thrive in the face of all the oppression they faced. It's a poignant and uplifting read, and I feel so grateful to Kat for putting it out in the world so that I could learn about so many wonderful Black women, many of whom have been relegated to the footnotes of history or entirely into obscurity. Kat is kind, authentic, and wildly talented. Listening to her makes you feel like anything is possible. Her career is a never-ending series of accomplishments. She makes things happen, not just for herself, but also for others. Kat, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. I'm so thrilled to have you.
I'm so thrilled to be
Really
here.
hot.
Thank you for making me cry before we've even started speaking. Wow, that's a really kind and generous introduction. I feel the same about you.
I'm so thrilled. I've been looking forward to this so much, and I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's start with your early life growing up in Northampton. Can you tell me a bit about that and the kind of vision you had for yourself?
Yes. I mean, have you heard of Northampton? Do you know anything about it?
Yes. So there's a temple there.
Yes.
And it's very significant to my dad. And so we visit on like a yearly basis.
Wait, what?
Yeah. There's a temple there, like a Hindu temple.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
So there's already this strange connection because normally
exactly
if I say
what the
I'm from
drive is like.
yeah, that drive is a killer.
Yeah.
I think it's the kind of place that most people are unsure where it is. They think it's somewhere up north. I mean, it is if you're from London. It's famous for one thing and one thing only, which is it's where the Doc Marten boots are made and it's where the film Kinky Boots is set. But it was quite like a particular small town kind of upbringing, I would say.
Yeah.
And I think what that does when you're kind of in a place where you don't necessarily feel like you belong, it kind of gets you dreaming.
Yeah.
And I think I was always already dreaming. And of course, I still have wonderful friendships with some of my school friends, but I think there was always a sense that I was a bit of an odd one out. I don't really know quite why that was, but I think I felt like I wanted to be somewhere bigger and be doing something more than I sensed would be possible in that town potentially. Although it's funny because now I kind of go back there quite a lot and I'm trying to do a lot to like boost it and show that good things can happen.
Oh, I love that you're doing that. I read that there was this moment when you were kind of thinking about reading law.
Yeah.
And I'll let you tell the story.
Yeah.
Your dad kind of had a pivotal role in where you are now.
Yes. I was absolutely obsessed with the idea of becoming a human rights lawyer. I think I didn't have a fixed thing, this is what I'm going to do when I grow up. I wasn't one of those children, but I certainly knew that I wanted to do something that would kind of make a difference, change the world. Like my biggest inspirations when I was growing up, like Emmeline Pankhurst and Rosa Parks, and these kind of figures that I read about and dreamt about. So I kind of didn't understand what that looked like as a job. So I got to figure out that if I was a lawyer, I would be able to advocate for people who needed help and make a change that way. So I kind of had this idea that I'd be a human rights lawyer and set about trying to find a way to make it happen. I went to all these different open days and I landed on the idea that I'm going to study law and French law at Oxford. This is what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really excited and I was telling everyone. And I came home and told my mum and dad. And my dad is a man of few words, shall we say. He's a Yorkshire man and doesn't necessarily wear his emotions on his sleeve. And he sat very quietly and just watched me and listened to me. And I remember thinking, you're really paying attention to what I'm saying, which, I noticed that at the time. And then later on that evening, he just said to me very quietly, don't study law. And because he's a man of few words and because when he, I guess, says something, he really does mean it. And we had the conversation and I listened to him because he felt that if I studied law, I'd be putting myself into this one kind of box, into this one corner. And as he said, you've got so much more to offer the world. That will always be there if you end up in that space. So I went on to do English and French instead of English law and French law, with the idea that I'd do a conversion course and become a lawyer. But as we may find out, that didn't end up happening.
I love that. I was thinking about why that stuck with me when I learned about it. And it's because I feel like parents hold so much kind of, they're protective. They hold so much fear for their kids and they want them to do well. And sometimes that means making sure that their future is certain in a way. And that can be a disservice sometimes to someone that has so much more to offer the world than being boxed in. And I think what your dad did in that moment was kind of set you free in a way that said, I see you and I see what you have to offer. And this is too small for you. If that makes sense. It's such unconditional love in that moment. Because it wasn't coming from a place of fear from him. It was more like about you.
It was about him seeing me and the kind of person I was and recognizing that perhaps there could be something more. Yeah.
Because like so many parents be like, no, just get have a stable career. You need to go to university, read something that's going to be vocational. That is actually the story, I think, for a lot of people sometimes. Yeah. And I think what he did in that moment was significant and incredible.
Yeah, and I think there's something in that, isn't there, for just recognizing that following a tried and tested route isn't necessarily the only way, but it does require a certain sense of risk-taking, I suppose, and kind of trust that things will work out. Because it's quite a risk, actually, thinking about it now as an adult. I'm like, would I convince my child who really had her heart set on studying law, and that's a great and respected career, would I convince them not to do it?
But you did actually end up in Oxford eventually when you read women's studies. What made you want to go back and read women's studies at Oxford?
Yeah, so I think because of when you come from a certain type of family as well, like I was going to be the first, in my family to be going to university. My parents now have, and like my mum did her PhD eventually when me and my sisters were older, but at the time this was like a very important thing in my family. And I think I had just set my heart on Oxford because it was what I understood to be the best. But I didn't go there I went for an interview as an undergrad but didn't get in. And I remember having like kind of an awful experience, just feeling very much out of my depth. For the first time in my life, I'd been such a confident, if I set my mind to something, I was going to do it. And I just remember feeling that, there's this world I really don't understand. And that probably I can now recognize was a sense of kind of the first time I was questioning myself. So I didn't go there for my undergrad, and I went and studied English and French at Warwick and ended up going, living abroad in Paris for my year abroad and having this great, wonderful experience in many ways. But then something came into my mind when I was looking to do a master's, because I'd started working for the United Nations by that point. And I had to do a master's to have a kind of job and not be a consultant. And I just thought, let's give it another go. I'm ready. And I was ready. There was something about having lived a bit more, having lived abroad in Paris. I think I then also lived abroad in Geneva. Yeah, I had. And I came with more of a sense of who I was. Yeah. And I wasn't going to be kind of diminished that second time round. And it ended up being still now, I think, the most formative intellectually, but also personally experience of my life, where I just got to like immerse myself in women, all of the women that I've admired and respected, the ones I'd grown up, the Pankhurst, Rosa Parks, but also the ones I hadn't heard of, and kind of take their legacy seriously. Because I'm in an institution that's saying, like Oxford, that's saying that,
this matters.
This matters, exactly. So it was quite formative, I think.
I love that you said that when you went back, it felt different, because I feel like that's all it is. It's just exposure to the world. And some people get that earlier and some people get that a little later, and that's all it is. I think Barack Obama said this actually when he was like, they aren't better than you, they're just more exposed. And when you sit in these rooms and you realize that actually like some of these people don't know what they're doing.
Most.
But actually it's just exposure.
Yeah. And I know like fake it till you make it, that saying is probably slightly weird, but I do also think there is something in, you hold yourself with the confidence that you deserve to be in any space.
Yeah.
no one's going to question it.
No. If you've done hard things, you kind of know that about yourself, like the difference between confidence and self-confidence is something that I think is quite apparent in people that like hold themselves differently because they know it about themselves rather than having to like outwardly project themselves onto other people.
That is very interesting. So it's an innate thing which kind of then shines out. You don't have to show it. It's just there. Yeah, I do. I really like that. And I think if we reframe this kind of faking it till you make it, it's not about faking it. It's actually about just kind of standing firm in that and allowing that to shine out of you to others. I really like that.
I'm glad. I was actually like thinking about your career and I realized that a lot of the dots connect. So you going to Oxford to read women's studies and then your thesis ultimately forming the basis of your book, This Thread of Gold, which is kind of like a compendium of incredible Black women and their stories. And then your kind of acting career post-Oxford, which we'll talk about in a second, and channeling kind of your experience into Kusini Productions and creating a platform for storytelling and, you know, championing Black women's voices. I feel like it all kind of fits in a way, in a really organic way. Can you tell me about that period post-Oxford when you decided to go to drama school?
Yes.
What was that? Why did you make that decision at the time?
Yes. It's so interesting. So Oxford was, as I mentioned, a space of intellectual fulfillment, but it was also a space where, because I suppose you're surrounded by people who haven't been told that they can't do something, I've really had this sense that I can do anything I want. And I'd always loved like writing and performing. Like my family will tell you every Christmas, they would like sit down and they would watch a show that I'd like written and performed and enrolled my sisters to. So I was always doing this sort of thing anyway, but it was just for fun. And then you become a serious person, you're going to whatever, be a lawyer or whatever.
Yeah.
But I suddenly got there, I was like, well, actually, this is something I've always loved. And there are people around me doing all these plays. Why can't I try? So I started just, you know, auditioning for university plays, but ended up performing in so many of them and just loving it. Like my heart started to come alive. And I think there was one real pinnacle moment, which was when I was playing Rita in Made in Dagenham, which is the story about the Ford factory workers, the women who went on strike because they were doing the same work as the men but being paid less. And I mean, I know it's a university play, but it was probably still one of the highlights of my entire life. Like I felt euphoria and I also felt so connected to being part of a movement, even though it's, you know, in a university, whatever, theatre. And in that moment, I just had a sense of there is a way that the activism and this love of performing and this sense of like how that can take other people forward. Like it can uplift other people. It can cause them to think of it differently. There is a world in which these things can come together. And I already had this job. I was working part-time for the UN to pay for my master's. So I was already kind of doing the gender equality work at that time. Yeah, I just had this thought. I just said to myself, just try, let's see, apply for drama school, see if you get an offer. Maybe that's something you could go on to do. The UN isn't going anywhere. And I kept having these kind of tussles with myself about what would be the right next move. But I think that really was an instance of just following my heart, following where the path was taking me at that stage. So yeah, I went to drama school. And there was one other piece of advice around that time that I got as well, funnily enough, similar in a vein to what my dad had said, which was from an aunt. And I was trying to have this endless decision of should I go to drama school or should I go to Geneva and take this full-time job? And she just said that your voice will have more of an impact outside of an office. And I understood that, even though it didn't quite make sense at the time. So I kind of managed to do this early negotiation at the age of about 22 where I was like,
love that.
So yeah, can I like keep this job? And I managed to negotiate to work part-time, I think just one day a week for the UN spread across the week.
So good.
And went to drama school. So I was able to fund drama school. And then from there I was able to get my first agent and start the acting career.
Can I ask what your drama school experience was like?
Yes. It was actually really, it was really hard. It was really difficult. I think because as we've kind of touched on, at that point I'd come from living abroad and working abroad. I'd come from doing this master's at Oxford where I was filled with purpose, and it was a self-driven purpose and it was a self-driven direction, and I felt like I'm on a path where I understand where things are going, and I can see the like impact that I will be able to make and how I can sort of leave the world a bit better than when I found it. And I got to drama school suddenly, and it was my experience of drama school was very self-reflective. There was this sort of, I guess they want to break you down in order for you to like rebuild, and so you can access all of your emotions. And I found it indulgent, I suppose. When I'm doing that by day, and then by night I'm working on a project on sexual violence in conflict zones, and I couldn't bring the two together. And I also, because of that, I think got quite frustrated and would somehow challenge things more. I would ask questions that I think my peers didn't want to ask, because the thing with acting is people feel very lucky to be there, which is actually a really harmful dynamic, because people aren't lucky to be there. They're lucky to have you. And there's something about that sense of, you know, if I say the wrong thing, it will all come crashing down, that I think is really toxic. So I ended up getting into all sorts of, I just became viewed as quite a troublemaker, which, you know, for me, I think was also really weird, because I was
just for asking questions.
Yes. Yeah, you know, it was so far from who I am. And I think I graduated just before the pandemic, and a lot of questions came out in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement. And, you know, then realizing that other Black and brown people had similar experiences, because we all sort of got together as a collective. And, you know, it was a really kind of actually quite traumatic process, unpicking all of that and unraveling it, and finding out that things that I'd been called out for, my like white male contemporaries hadn't. But I met some wonderful people there. It got me my first agent, and I think everything in life is an experience. I was only there for 1 year, and I don't regret it. I think it was an important experience to have. But I believe things are changing now, because I don't think it's necessarily a healthy environment.
I don't know if you've listened to, Viola Davis spoke about her experience at drama school recently on Talk Easy, and she spoke about how when she got there, she was asked to tap into her softness and play kind of like more white women roles, because, you know, I think they said that you should have range and you should learn how to play these roles. And she said the problem with that was, when she left drama school, all the roles were not white women roles or soft roles. They were all, you know, roles for Black women.
Yeah.
And I think she called out that kind of double standard there, where she was being asked to tap into like softness, which I think was a proxy for something else.
Yeah.
And other people were not. And she kind of couldn't understand that. She articulates this a lot better than I just did. But
no, you've articulated that brilliantly.
The way she said it, I was like, gosh, yeah, that there's so much. You go there to learn, but actually maybe potentially questioning what you're learning is important, and understanding where it's coming from is important too.
And understanding what it's rooted in. Exactly. Is it coming from your understanding, not your understanding, the drama school teacher's understanding of what softness looks like?
Yeah.
And what also being strong looks like. Because I think that is also, Michaela Cole speaks about this as well. Papa Essiedu, they went to drama school together. There are so many people whose experiences of drama school were exactly this, you know, like, let's discover your soft side. I had the same thing. And I mean, there are two things here, right? The industry has to change so that the softness, those roles exist.
Yes.
But there's also a sense of, well, if someone is appearing strong to you, that's for a reason. And you don't understand the armor that they're putting on just to exist in that space every single day. So, yeah, I think there's a sense of this just duality of never being able to fully exist, never being able to just be comfortable, to just feel secure that you can be exuberant and exist in your full authentic self. That, yeah, I don't know that it exists in it for any other kind of walk of life where they would actually actively try and chisel that out of you.
It goes back to stereotyping, I think.
Yes.
And what you talk about in this thread of gold, kind of like the categorization of women, Black women in particular, and the world trying to make sense of everyone just by putting us in boxes. Which brings me to Hattie McDaniel.
Oh,
my hero.
She's your hero as well now.
Thank you for bringing her to my life. I went down a Hattie McDaniel rabbit hole, listened to that Oscar-winning speech, cried. I'm conscious that some people might not know who she is. Can you tell us a little bit about the hero that is Hattie McDaniel?
Oh my gosh, Hattie McDaniel. I'm so happy she's now your hero as well, by the way.
Her.
This is amazing. This is exactly what happened when I discovered her. I was kind of like, yeah, I read honestly about 8 books on her, everything I could find. Anywhere she was mentioned, went down this whole rabbit hole.
I got everyone involved. I was like, yeah, Mum, you have to watch this. You need to know about this.
Oh my gosh, I love that. But I think this also tells us so much about why stereotypes are not helpful for us, because Hattie McDaniel she's the first ever Black actor to win an Oscar. So people think it's Sidney Poitier, but he was the first man. Yeah. She was the first person in general. And she won the Oscar for playing the figure of Mammy in a film called Gone with the Wind, which is based on a very iconic American book. But so she played this kind of like Mammy figure, which is, I suppose, sort of an extension of the slave trade. So she's a servant, essentially a slave to the family. And she met so much criticism because by that point, the civil rights movement was just in full swing. So the Black community were kind of up in arms that she would play this character, but also the white community kind of still treated her as that figure in real life. So she's got all of this tension playing out. But she just kind of kept her head high. She loved performing. It's just what she wanted to do. She has this like quote where she said, "I'd rather play a maid than be a maid," which, you know, is just so empowering for a woman of that time to recognize that there is an inherent value in her being able to like sustain a living. And she kind of also became, you know, she fought against desegregated housing. She was really sexy. She married 4 times. When she died, she had a deathbed party. So people came and visited her while she was sipping champagne. She's this rich woman filled with so much life, and the legacy she left extends far beyond. I think she kind of had gone down in history as just the woman who played the Mammy figure and did a disservice to Black people everywhere. Whereas actually she's so, so much more than that. And there's a quote Chimamanda Adichie says actually about, you know, the problem with, she talks about the single story, stereotypes as a single story. And the problem with that is not that it's untrue, but it's that it's incomplete. And I think it's this sense that we need to be like looking to sort of paint the rest of the picture. You know, stereotypes do exist for a reason, but how do we move beyond them and how do we flesh out the sort of rest of the story? And that's what I'm really interested in, I think.
The speech where Hattie McDaniel accepts her Oscar, I cried. And the reason I did cry, I was thinking about, why is that so moving? It was a very short speech. And she says, like, I hope I'm a credit to this industry and to my race. And I think it was because the kind of quiet dignity, which I think we just spoke about, that like self-confidence and that quiet dignity that she was holding on to, even after kind of being humiliated in the sense that she wasn't allowed to sit with the rest of the cast. She couldn't attend the premiere at the time. There was a lot of segregation. I just think that must have been so humiliating for her. And to have to operate within such a racist system and kind of like the daily oppression, but to then still get up on stage and accept that award, even after facing so much criticism from her own community, it was just deeply moving. I loved it.
Yeah.
I can't articulate what it meant to me, but I just loved it so much.
But it is
it's on YouTube.
Yes, watch it, everyone. It's the self-confidence, and it's that sense of, I can't make everyone happy here, but I do believe in what I'm doing, so I'm going to keep pressing forward and keep doing it. And that eventually will translate to helping somebody else feel seen or helping somebody else feel inspired, which it has done.
Yes.
And I think it's that kind of faith that you may not see the results of what it is that you're doing even in your lifetime, because I'm not really sure that she fully did, but she certainly had this sense of just authenticity and sense of who she was that I don't know how she maintained it in the face of all that she had.
Yeah.
I take great inspiration from her.
Hi everyone, just a short break to say thank you so much for listening to the episode. I hope you're enjoying it. If you are, please do hit the follow button. It means so much to me and really makes a difference to a new podcast like this one. Also, I would love if you could leave a rating and a review. When you're creating in a vacuum, it's not always apparent whether the episodes are resonating or not, and that's why your feedback is so important to me. It means that I can actually put out episodes that you want and will enjoy. Thanks so much. Back to the episode. Let's talk about Kusini Productions. Talking about things that move things forward for people, I wanted to ask what gave you the idea to start your own production company?
Yeah, it's probably actually what you were saying about Viola Davis. So then coming out into this industry and seeing kind of it giving you one avenue, you know, that particular, the strong, I don't know, Black Panther figure or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that sense of, oh, okay, this is the world I'm entering into. Okay. It was a sense of, I want to do more. So I had different ideas for things. I wanted to start a fund, which I did for different community projects. You know, how can we, not film related, but community projects that will kind of help the community around you. So small scale, because I think often that's an issue with activism. People get overwhelmed because you think, how do you make an impact? How do you end climate change? It feels too overwhelming. Well, what about if you just on your street had a small scale initiative? You know, so it was that. So giving people the small finance for that. It was also helping, like doing a mentorship program. So I had all of these different things I was doing and working on, and coupled with the sort of recognition that, okay, this film industry thing, I'm going to be auditioning to play the like best friend of the girlfriend. You know what I mean? I was like, that's not going to run with me. So how do I change that?
Yeah.
I guess we're going to...
Main character energy.
Main character energy, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was like, well, I guess there's a banner of kind of bringing all of these things together, that with this clear goal of elevating different voices and creating opportunities as well. You know, how can I make sure that it's not just something that benefits me and my friends or my colleagues? How can I make something that will actually create opportunities for as many people as possible? And it started off being very clearly Black women and Black women only. But since then, it's essentially a platform for elevating diverse voices and those that need to be heard. So the stories we've looked at coercive control, homelessness, mental health, motherhood. You know, now it's kind of like, if there's a voice that has a story that needs to be told, this is a space for it. And let's make sure that we bring as many other people up with us along the way.
I love that. And how do you decide if a story should be told? Like, is it a gut feeling?
Almost always, almost always. I know I probably should be more analytical, but it is a gut feeling, and especially now, I get so many scripts and I can't even read them all now. But I sort of, by the time they make their way to me, because I think my team now really understand what's going to resonate with me. But I get a sense just from someone's voice or looking at kind of what they've said in their letter, you know, their sort of covering letter of why they want to tell this story. That immediately tells you something. Then I always think about the audience as well. I always think, who needs to see this? Who will this help? Who might live their life a little bit differently because they've seen this film? And if I think, I've seen that before, or I don't know that this will actually change something, then that probably would be a reason for me to leave something. But if I sense that it will drive something forward, that always gets me so excited.
And I feel like it probably carries you through the project of making it, because I feel like it's probably such hard work that you really need to believe in what you're making.
Yes, exactly. You have to. I mean, my gosh, it's
it's
a thankless task sometimes, Yeah,
I bet it is. Oh, well done you. One of the themes in this thread of gold, which really struck a chord with me, was silence and being silenced, and then women reclaiming their silence. There are so many points, actually, while I'm talking about this thread of gold. There are so many things which you articulate in the book, which I have felt, but I have never known I have felt them. Like, I've never been able to articulate the feeling, or it's just been a feeling and you're not conscious of it. But when you write about it, in this book, when I read it, I was like, I have felt that feeling. I know what she means. And that's not just with this point about silence. Like, we'll talk about it a little later. There are so many things that I was like, this is such a universal feeling for women of colour. So thank you for writing the book. It's a bit of a tangent, but I loved it and I felt seen. Particularly the silencing point. So on that, you talk about how women, we're all born with this kind of innate confidence, and all of us are, women, men, we're all born with something in us, like a sense of knowing who we are. And then gradually, over the course of our lives as women, that kind of gets chipped away, and there's this kind of insidious, subtle silencing by the world. And I think most women, I hope, will become aware of it at some point in their life. And it's kind of this jarring moment when you realize who you used to be and who you've become because you've ceded so much to the world. And then I think that's when people's or women's lives really begin, because they start reclaiming their voice. And I wanted to talk to you about, that silencing and how you might have experienced it in your own life.
Yeah, it's so interesting that, isn't it? The fact that is such a universal thing.
Yeah.
Because I remember writing that chapter and I felt like I couldn't even articulate what it was I wanted to say. It's the first chapter of the book, but It was one of the hardest to write, weirdly. And I think one of the chapters that came last, even though it had ideas for a long time. And eventually I was kind of like, this is my way into this book. This is actually at the heart of everything I'm going to go on to say.
Yeah.
This sense of what one's voice is, how we lose it, and then how we find it again, which is, of course, it's inevitably also just a part of a journey into adulthood. But there is something more insidious, as you say, especially if you are a child that is filled with this self-confidence, which I was and am again. But I think, yes, there's the example we spoke about earlier, at Oxford. I suddenly had this sense of just being slightly knocked off my pedestal. And one particular moment I remember there was that the interviewer had asked, what my favourite book was. And one of my favourite books is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. And I said that, having no concept that might be seen as anything other than, like, I understood that he'd asked me what my favourite book was.
It's a great book.
It's a great book. And I said that. And I just remember him sort of scoffing.
What, not pretentious enough?
Yeah, not pretentious enough, not highbrow enough, not interesting. I don't know. And I remember that feeling of just being a bit discombobulated by that. That was my first sense of, okay, there is something that you should say and there's something that you shouldn't say. And I've somehow missed that mark. I think then I got to university, and probably many people have had an experience where a friend or a partner will just chip away at them. And I think you come out of that and you understand that it comes from something else, often from an insecurity on the other person's part. But when you're, 18 years old, you don't recognize that. So I unfortunately had a kind of, a boyfriend who just did all he could to, drag me down with words. I am very energetic and enthusiastic about life, and he would say, it's just like you've got ADHD or something. This is like pre it being like, probably, yes, I should have been diagnosed years before I eventually was. But the fact that he said that in this dismissive way, and why are you talking so much, and can you just chill, and all these things that just eventually cause you to become a bit less and to recognize that, oh yeah, maybe this isn't how like girls should be. Maybe I should be more demure or cooler or whatever it was. And over time that translated into worse things, and it did become physically violent eventually, which is then for me was a get out, because I think you don't recognize the words, especially at that age. Well, we know even now coercive control is so much more insidious in some ways. And then and it's interesting saying all of these, they're all men. I'm just like saying them. I guess if I gave one more example, it is getting to the UN and had this, great job. I'm gender advisor, and this amazing kind of responsibility at quite a young age, which I was qualified for. I interviewed, I got the job. So they had chosen me for many reasons. But the manager I had at the time just didn't like there being a younger woman possibly. And he just would constantly tell me to manage myself and talk down to me. And if I show too much passion or enthusiasm, it's going to make me come across as young, with young being this dirty word, which I now think it's a great thing to be young and passionate.
It's good when it suits you, isn't it?
Yes, right. Oh. So all of these things, and those are just personal things, I suppose, but then...
So relatable, though. So relatable, because I feel like in so many spaces, I mean, in relationships and jobs, it goes back to that thing you said, like women especially sometimes just feel lucky to be there.
Yes.
Or lucky to be in that relationship, or lucky to have to have that job. And actually, you deserve to be in that job. You deserve to have a loving relationship. And that changing that mindset is so important, because when you feel lucky, you also, tolerate things that you shouldn't tolerate. You cede so much of your control. And I think that's so relatable for so many women, because there's so much pressure, right? Like for a lot of women, actually, I think for all of us, sometimes there's this narrative that our self-worth is tied to being partnered or, having children or outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of taught to kind of let things chip away at us because it's all outside of us.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. And I think there comes a certain point where we have to actually intentionally reframe that. And I don't know how I think what that looks like for those coming after us is for us to actually go out of our way to redress the balance. So it's about actively championing and actively nurturing, because I don't think it's enough to just remain neutral but polite. I also do see that the world is slightly different now. I hope we have access to more information, which is helpful.
Yeah.
But I found, with kind of this silencing and this recognition of the fact that I had been silenced or was being silenced, it felt really overwhelming to do anything about it.
Yes.
At the time myself. And it was exactly at the time when Michaela Coel had done this speech at the Emmys, where she kind of spoke about, she said, don't be afraid to go away and see what comes to you in the silence. And it was such a tonic at that time, because it felt like someone had just said, it had given me a kind of get out of jail card. It's okay. It's okay to recognize that you are being or have been silenced, and actually great growth can come from that. And so I didn't feel this pressure to kind of, okay, this has happened to me, how do I get myself out of this situation? I didn't feel any immediate pressure to start some process of healing or to start going out of my way to prove to everyone that had tried to push me down, because that isn't always helpful. And you have to be ready for that to be able to authentically and truly bring yourself out of it. So I just felt, I felt such a sense of relief by that. And I just, I kind of went to ground and focused on nurturing the things that I could, and focused on writing a lot in that time. And I think creativity often comes out of those kind of moments or periods of time where you're struggling to you feel as though you're struggling to implement growth, but it's happening.
Mm.
You don't have to see it at the time to recognize that it is happening. And I hope that is something that can be of encouragement to people who feel that they are being bombarded or overwhelmed with this sort of society's grasp on who they are.
Do you find that you are most creative when it's a moment of flux, or like there's something painful or something you're trying to work through?
I would say almost always, until recently. But I think lately I've been going through like a few kind of major personal, big personal overhaul kind of challenges. And I felt really tired. I've just felt really unable to translate that into anything. So I'm actually back in this phase of don't be afraid to just see what comes to you in the silence. I think something will come out of that eventually. And I think that's part of a healing stage, is when you're ready to create again. But I also think I'm kind of now investing a lot more in the kind of quiet moments and what that looks like. I remember once someone said to me, when I was finding it really hard, a particular project to do with sexual violence, we were working in the DRC, and I was finding it just, I couldn't get what I was working on out of my head at night, and it was my every waking thought. And I started to question, can I do this? I don't think I am cut out for this. And one of my friends said that it's, if you're a doctor and you're crying every time someone brings you their broken leg, you can't do your job, and then you're not actually helping them. Like, it's okay to feel compassion. That's what would make a great GP.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to say, oh my goodness, this is how we're going to fix it.
Yeah.
And I found that quite helpful, just in terms of, okay, I've got a job to do here. I've got a mission.
Yeah.
And I can't, if I allow myself to just be totally consumed by my sorrow or what's happening, I'm not able to fulfill that anymore.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to take yourself away somewhat, I think. I don't know where I was going with that.
No, that makes sense. A kind of like a detachment to how you feel versus the job you need to do.
Versus what's happening.
The output.
Yes,
I understand.
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
You made perfect sense. Can I ask you to read, actually, Michaela Cole's speech? Because I feel like it just, I watched that again on YouTube as well.
Did you?
Yeah. So many great nuggets.
Write the tale that scares you, that makes you feel uncertain, that isn't comfortable. I dare you. In a world that entices us to browse the lives of others to help us feel better, determine how we feel about ourselves, and to, in turn, feel the need to be constantly visible, for visibility these days seems to somehow equate to success. Do not be afraid to disappear from it, from us for a while, and see what comes to you in the silence. It's even better than I remembered.
It's gorgeous, isn't it?
It's that thing about visibility as well, isn't it? This need to be like, do you find this whole like exhausting?
Yes. And even with kind of this podcast, there is so much chatter about like having to create content and having to do a lot of other things.
Yes.
And it doesn't necessarily feel natural to me.
Right.
But I do really believe in the podcast, and I want it to be a success. So it's kind of this conflict at all times between what you need to do to be successful and what you need to do to kind of feed your soul.
And to feel like you are putting out the thing that feels exactly authentic to you. It's really complicated. I don't know what the answer is, because I completely agree. I think you want the work, the podcast, to just speak for itself, but then there's a sense of how do you get it out there and let people listen. But I think she's right. This is a feeling of, if you feel like it's because you're trying to be visible, that's probably where you can take a step back.
And like visibility is important to artists, right? Like, but then it's also, don't look at me so I can also create in privacy.
Exactly.
So it's like, because you can't create if someone's always watching you.
Of course. Someone's looking over your shoulder. How are you going to be free to...
She's amazing.
She's,
The other thing I love in this thread of gold is that you kind of champion the quieter voices as well as the, the more well-known figures like Beyonce and Rosa Parks and Diane Abbott. And there are so many women that I learned about through your book. I think for me, because I have, necessarily not always been the loudest person in the room, it felt so great to have someone appreciate the quieter figures and, acknowledge that they can also be capable of a revolution through kind of small everyday actions. Was that a conscious decision to unearth the stories of perhaps lesser known women as well as the kind of more well-known ones?
Yeah, definitely. I love that you've said that. You remind me quite a lot of my sister, actually. Yeah,
That's so kind.
She's very like you. She listens and sees, really listens and really sees people. And I really see that in you. And I think because of that and because of her and how she is the most caring and probably one of the biggest, in a way, activists that I know, in the sense that by her compassion and by her being that person that anyone will go to for anything, she is changing the world, but she's changing it in a different way to Rosa Parks, who is firmly out there and everyone sees her face. And I think it goes back to this sense, or this thing we said earlier, of it feeling somehow overwhelming to know where to begin and know how you're going to make the impact. That is twofold. If you also don't really want to put your voice and face out there and you're more comfortable being introverted. So I think I was thinking about, how do we make this really expansive? How can we make sure that this is a call to arms for everyone? It's not just a book about those who are going to go out on the picket lines and be protesting and, And Michaela Loach, who's an amazing climate activist. I once saw a sort of podcasting with her, and she was giving this example of mycelial networks of mushrooms. So they're kind of amazing because they're like under the ground and they're spread out and they're growing and growing and growing and growing, but you don't see them and you don't really see the impact they're making. But what they're actually doing is feeding the entire ecosystem, and so that things can grow. And there's something about the people that I just love that as a metaphor for the people that are below the scenes. And it's about kind of having faith and trust that they are changing the world, even if you don't necessarily see them and hear them, and they don't have to be the loudest voice in the room. So like we've all been raised by someone that cooked our dinner and kept us alive and fed our soul. And I think those women or people deserve to be celebrated. And then found some cool examples as well, the women who kind of created this like skin modification tone for The Sims, Muriel Tramis. I thought that's fascinating. We've got coders, we've got video gamers. It's also about how do we move away from stereotypes. Let's get people out there in their full glory and recognize that changing the world looks different for all of us. Everyone deserves equal respect and value put on their name for that.
Yeah. And sometimes the systems that we live in don't recognize those kinds of people, but actually they are holding us all up.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if we're talking about those who are keeping us alive with cooking. And yeah, I'm fascinated by all of that. And I think it's just exciting to reframe this conversation. Let's move it away from the loudest voices in the room. I don't know how far that takes us anymore.
No. And it kind of makes your everyday, it gives purpose to your everyday. Yes. Like you're moving the needle. You are doing something that has value and meaning for someone. If you're a nurse or you're a mother or you're... Yeah.
Or that person you speak to on the bus or on the train who hasn't had a human interaction or conversation. Do you know what I mean? There are things that we don't even know that are making someone's day, keeping someone here.
Yes.
And I find that really important to remember, because it's so easy to kind of get bogged down in our own selves and life. And
that's also a thread of gold.
Yeah.
I remember listening to you speak and I was like, I really just need to go up to her and talk, and it's not in my nature to do that, but I'm trying to do that more. And I remember a friend of mine was there and she was like, you just need to go and talk to her. And I was like, okay, I'm going to. And he was so kind. And it just... it felt like you felt the same way about the world that I do.
Exactly. And if you hadn't come up, we wouldn't be having this conversation today now. So again, there's something in that sense. Yeah. Sometimes we do have to do something that feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we know that.
Yeah.
We have to do that.
We have to do
it.
Just has to be done.
It has to be done. Yeah, it is.
There was a part where you say perhaps revolutionary could even mean taking ourselves out of contexts that will likely never change. And that's so powerful. And the reason, the example that you gave to put that into context, I think, was Love Island. And going back to like you articulating things that I would have felt but never known that I was feeling them, if that makes sense. That was one of those things, because that example, and I'll let you tell it in a second, it felt like a punch in my gut, or like, because I knew exactly what you meant. Would you mind just describing that example and putting that quote into context?
Yes, it's so funny that was the example I gave, but because it wouldn't be, I'd forgotten that actually. When you said that, I thought of something else.
Oh, tell me that too.
Yes, I will. But I think, it's kind of going back to this sense of being quiet and what quiet activism, quiet self-care, I kind of use that term in quotation marks, but what that looks like. And I think at the time I was clearly watching Love Island, and I was reflecting on how all of those, it was when they would stand up and get picked. And I think on the first episode that happens. I haven't actually watched it in a few years now, but they stand up and get chosen. And
which is problematic in itself.
Which is problematic in itself. It's horrific in itself when we actually think about that. My gosh. But it would always be the black or brown women that were left. And I was just watching it thinking, why are we continuing to put ourselves in this position, knowing that this is going to be the outcome? I mean, of course, what should happen is that the producers should change the show and have people who are likely to whatever, but that doesn't happen. So why do we continue to put ourselves in that situation? Recognizing what that does to our self-esteem. I was thinking, recognizing what that also does to everyone else who's watching it, the millions of people who see that and just think, I'm last to be chosen.
But no one talks about it because it's so. But you all know why.
We all know why. Yeah, no one, because it's not like these women aren't beautiful. They're all stunning.
Yeah.
This is like a happy, glowy scenario. Yes. We're all just choosing who we, find a connection with. No. Every year, there's a reason why. It's really painful, actually, thinking about that again. I haven't thought about that in a long time. And I think what the revolutionary thing there would be, as I was writing it, was for those girls to just say, until you change the way the show is run, we're taking a step back. But I also think it shouldn't necessarily always be on us to be the ones making the change. I think the wider kind of thought behind that is the scariest thing actually is often leaving.
Yes.
We're secure, whether it's financial, whether it's family, whether it's home, whether it's relationships, we feel secure and there is a safety that comes in that. But things don't change unless you make them change. Things don't just change.
Yeah.
And the revolutionary action is actually taking accountability and taking yourself out of something so that you can change it. Probably not just for you. It will also have a wider ripple effect on people around you, those coming after you. And there is great power in that. And that's not to discredit how terrifying it can be to leave a scenario. It requires a recognition in the first place of, I don't think things are going to change here. And I don't think I can change them. Or I don't think I should be the person to change them. Therefore, it's not quitting. I'm going to take a step back.
What was the other example you were thinking of?
I was thinking of a relationship. I'm very much going through like a end of a 10-year kind of almost relationship. That is kind of okay because it's been ending for years. But that really comes to mind because I wrote that and I need to hear that today.
Thank you for sharing. And thank you for being so open this entire episode. I really appreciate it, Kat.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, of course.
Because I feel like that example, the Love Island example specifically, brings to light beauty standards and the way in which Black women, women of colour, we're all trying to measure up to these standards that were never created for us, and they don't serve us, and we're not even on the radar of some of these standards. And so, I mean, I think, again, why do we put ourselves through the kind of, I guess in the case of Love Island, the competition of, again, competing with people that do meet those beauty standards? How is that your experience, and how have you kind of unlearned some of that conditioning? Because I know for me it's taken a long time, and I think I'm still kind of unpicking at things that I might have internalized when it comes to how I look.
Yeah, totally. I think we're constantly in this sense of competition, not just with other people, but with ourselves. You kind of have to opt out. The default is that you are in competition because this is the status quo. And to kind of move away from that, again, takes this intentional, I don't want to be involved in this. I will choose to find beauty in however I define it. So there's something already that, as we mentioned earlier, you're kind of born as this like pure being. And then quite quickly, when it comes to beauty, the world wants to sort of chip away at that. I actually think the beauty thing comes before the confidence thing.
Yes.
Well, they're related, but I think people are already commenting on that and finding a way to kind of guide you in that from childhood. I mean, think how many of us have been sexualized from I think about the age of 10, people really start sexualizing, young women and girls. So I do try and keep myself out of it, but it is impossible. And I think when I was writing this, after that kind of Love Island reflection, I realized that I can't opt out of this conversation. That is a bit of a cop-out, actually, because to say I don't want to be involved and, beauty is whatever we define it as is not accurate. We are all you have to do is open TikTok, open Instagram, and we're bombarded. We're absolutely bombarded. And we are part of this narrative, whether we like it or not. So we have to make an active decision to reframe it. If you are, I think if you exist as a woman, you exist in the context of beauty standards, whether you want to or not. So I actually did a kind of research questionnaire interview process where I interviewed 50 different Black women, and I just asked them different questions around beauty. And that I was kind of expecting to have some sort of cohesive narrative on what beauty standards meant and how we could change them. What ended up happening was, often when I was doing the interviews, we would both be crying because I realized that we don't often get asked about what beauty actually means to us. And there was something about the responses where people were in a safe space away from the wider narrative and were just able to say what they found beautiful about themselves in particular. I realized that most people's kind of natural instinctive response was nothing to do with the standards that society put upon them. No one would speak about their weight. No one said, I love my body. I love that I'm thin, or people found what people found beautiful about themselves was mostly an innate beauty, and it was about their kindness, or it was about their ability to see the good in the world, or it was about their empathy, or how they would help anyone, or how they were open. It was so moving because I think it's about opening up that space for what beauty looks like, that I couldn't do it on my own. And it made me also realize that, beauty is a much wider conversation. I think that's how we can start to reframe it.
Yeah. When you kind of question what beauty means to you, and when it's got nothing to do with your appearance, you understand that actually what you are internalizing from the world has no value, because that's not what has value to you.
Exactly. And it was never yours to begin with.
No.
Someone gave you that idea of what beauty was. And once you step away from that, it's really liberating.
Yeah.
Because I see beauty in everyone. I don't think I've ever looked at someone and thought, beauty is not...
You're not thinking about the way they look.
No, they're beautiful if they're beautiful, if they're kind, if you speak to them and they're really listening, how they make you feel, exactly. Exactly.
Can I ask you the questions that you asked these women?
Oh my gosh.
I'd love to.
Okay.
Okay, Kat, what does beauty mean to you?
Beauty to me, I think, is about an optimism. It's what I find beautiful is an ability to look up and look out and kind of, I don't know, I sense it in people. Some people are seeing the worst in the world, and some people are striving to find, even if it's a moment of joy. I can't help but find that beautiful, and that feeling of just wanting to be around someone because they see light, I think is what, I think that's what I find beautiful.
How fitting that your middle name is Joy.
I know, thanks, Mum.
I love that. What do you find beautiful about yourself?
I think I don't know what to say. I think what I find beautiful about myself is probably I want to make, like you want to make people happy, I want to make people's lives, worlds better. If it's in a small way, let me bring you a cup of coffee. It's in a big way, let me do something bigger. I want to kind of leave the world and people around me a bit better than when I found it. And I think that is beautiful because, it's a selfless, or it's certainly not a selfish way of living. It's a generous way of living, I think. That's beautiful.
What do you do to embrace your beauty?
I make sure that I spend time with those that can nourish and uplift me. And I think more recent, but I understand when to say no or to step away from things that might make it harder for me to be living that kind of beautiful, optimistic, life-changing way. So I think it's, finding those that can help you stay true to that and saying no to things or people that don't serve you in that way.
Like preserving yourself almost.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And that's so important as well, just from like protecting your energy and not burning out, that kind of thing.
Can I ask you the questions?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I've not thought about them, but yes, you can. Okay.
I know. What
does beauty mean to me?
you?
I find my mum beautiful, like so beautiful. And I tell her all the time. And it's got nothing to do with how she looks or anything. I love all the freckles on her face. I love the wrinkles. I love everything. She'll kill me for saying that. You have no wrinkles. I just think someone that has lived and lived a good life, lived a generous life, a life of beauty, a life of honesty, a life of hard work, a life of dignity. And you can see that not just in their face, but you can feel that in their energy. You can feel that in their way of holding themselves. I love people like that. I love people that hold themselves with like all of their life lived. Does that make sense?
Yes. They're carrying all of that and it's written
on them.
face.
Yes. Yeah. In like the way their eyes crinkle when they smile, or like, the snaggle in their teeth, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The imperfections.
Exactly, like a scar from,
something that makes them real to me.
Yeah.
There's a story actually, I digress, but it's called The Velveteen Rabbit. And I don't know if you know it. It's like
I've heard
children's book. And it's about this toy rabbit. It's so loved by the boy. At the end, like the rabbit's ear is like lopped off and it's missing an eye and its fur is all yellow. And there's a quote, I think one of the other toys says it. So the quote is, "Real isn't how you're made. It's a thing that happens to you. When a child loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real." And then the rabbit says, "Does it hurt?" And the horse says, "Sometimes. But when you're real, you don't mind being hurt." And then the rabbit says, "Does it happen all at once, like being wound up or bit by bit?" And the horse says, "It doesn't happen all at once. You become. It takes a long time. That's why it doesn't happen often to people who break easily or have sharp edges or who have to be carefully kept. Generally, by the time you're real, most of your hair has been loved off and your eyes drop out and you get loose in the joints and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all because once you're real, you can't be ugly except to people who don't understand. The most stunning bit, and I think I'm going to frame it because I loved it so much. But
I'm going to frame this.
That's what beauty means to me.
We go beyond all of...
transcends all of that stuff.
Exactly. That is so beautiful.
The Velveteen Rabbit.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, and what was the next question?
What was the next? What do I find beautiful about myself? Ooh. I find beautiful about myself, I think, my self-awareness. When I've done something that I'm not proud of or disappointed myself, I think and it's taken a while to get there, but I think I forgive myself a lot.
Wow.
I genuinely have a lot of forgiveness for myself, which I didn't necessarily always have. I used to punish myself for, not being perfect. Yeah. And now I think I have a lot of grace for myself and for others, because I think when you show grace to yourself, you can also give it to other people.
It's easier to give it to others, yeah.
Yeah. So I find that my grace for myself is beautiful.
And do you then is there a lot of self-reflection that goes on for you to forgive yourself, or is it more that something will happen and you are quite good at saying, okay?
I am quite spiritual.
Okay.
So I think that helps as well. I think I reflect on it, and I think as long as you recognize something in yourself and you want to be better tomorrow, you want the next day you want to be a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
I think we're all deserving of forgiving the past version of ourselves. I also think it just, from a selfish perspective, brings me peace, and I want to live peacefully. So the only way you can really do it is to free yourself from punishing yourself for something that really is human. Yeah. And I don't want to punish myself anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that is incredibly inspiring.
I'm not always successful, Kat. Sometimes it's a real struggle, but I think I'm better at it, and it's changed my life, I think.
Yeah. I think even the process of that, even if you don't reach a point of total forgiveness, that's something I haven't even embarked on. I think I love that as a
even accepting it is a big step.
Yeah.
Saying because we're not all perfect, and I think it would be so sad if we were. And the shadow side is what gives the light side more meaning. Yeah. And we're all dark in our own ways. Yeah. So I think even just accepting that you can have dark moments, mean moments, selfish moments, unkind moments. Yeah. It's all fine. It's okay.
This is a very, very, very wonderful thing to find beautiful about yourself as well. Because it's in the darkest moments, that's actually where you're finding your beauty.
Yeah. And I won't let anyone shame me for those moments either. If someone's that wasn't, you did this back in the day. And I'd be like, yes, I did. Yeah. That was me. And I'm not proud of that person that said those things or did those things, but that was me. Yeah. And that was a version of me, and that's okay.
Wow.
And that we're always changing, right? That's the best thing about this whole thing about life. That we can forgive ourselves and have a new version.
And keep evolving as well. Because I think if we always hold ourselves to a version of ourselves that we once were, we get trapped.
Yes.
And we actually lose so much of the richness that life has.
Yeah.
There's also something really liberating about realizing that we are able to evolve. Yeah. And it's okay to, I think the thing with past me doing something and just saying yes, that was me. Yeah, it frees us from always being tethered to that version. I love that.
Yeah. Also because you don't feel shame anymore. Yeah. So you can love that not less than perfect version of you. When you don't feel shame over that person, you can feel love.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I think.
This is very... Okay,
this is a work in progress.
And your last?
What do I do to embrace my beauty? Ooh. I probably don't do enough to embrace my beauty, but I think I do need to maybe take care of myself more. I think mentally, spiritually. I just have so many things I want to do, and I always feel like I'm running out of time to do them for some reason. So I'm always like pushing myself, and I think sometimes I need to hold more space for myself and be kinder to myself in terms of like boundaries and self-care.
Yeah.
Sleeping more.
Yeah.
Eating better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basics.
Yeah. And remembering that, I guess, if you don't have any place you can grow, as I always say, resilience is about having something to expand into. If you don't have that capacity to expand, you can't do all of the things.
I love that. What was that quote?
Yes, resilience is about having something to expand into.
Oh.
I think about it all the time because, I'm the same as you, but it's about recognizing that if you don't have that space to expand, you actually do a disservice to yourself and to your like gorgeous ambition and energy and like all of the things that you want to do. You can't do them if eventually you hit a point where you're just full.
Yeah.
You can't go any further.
I want to ask you about all of your upcoming exciting projects. Can you give us a kind of flavour of what we can expect?
Yes. So in the acting world, I will be in the next season of Bridgerton, which I'm so excited about.
I'm so excited for you.
Can't wait. That's like the limit of what I can say.
I love that. It's so perfect because of, Shondaland, the casting, everything we've been talking about in terms of like amazing Black characters.
Yeah, it really feels like a full circle. It felt like an affirming moment for me when I got that job because exactly, I felt like when that I even wrote about it in my book, you know, how that changed the landscape, and it is situated in the kind of space that I want to be in as an actor. I think more and more now about my roles, and I've done jobs where I've thought I'm probably not actually aligned with where I want to be in terms of if I'm like at the RSC and I was kind of playing a maid-esque character that in my mind I was imbuing with more. Yeah. But like now with the benefit of hindsight, I think if like young me went to see that, maybe I'd feel empowered by seeing a version of myself on stage. But maybe I would have questions about that. So I think, there was something very affirming about being in a show that I feel very proud to be in and proud of what the show represents. Whilst it's also just, a
great show. Yeah. Like watched by millions.
Exactly.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing.
Exactly. And I've just finished, I'm close to finishing my first documentary, which is really exciting. I'm going to be finishing the edit for that this week because we've got our first screening already lined up. But that's called Swim Sisters, and it's about 3 different generations of Black women swimmers who I kind of just get to know them and why they swim, and then they end up coming together for a swim. And it's just, it was the most joyous thing to shoot and to film and to meet these like very different characters. One of them's our first ever athlete to represent GB at the Olympics. One of them's a child who just loves swimming. And Alice Deering, who's the Olympian, is her role model. And then Ronnie learnt to swim age 52 and she's now 55. And she learnt to swim because she was just fed up with being part of a statistic and wanted to change that. So it's this kind of like amazing melting pot of incredible women who, in their own ways, I thought it'd be about swimming. It's ended up becoming about womanhood and something much deeper. It's going to Rotterdam next end of June for something called the Swimmable Cities Summit, which is hosted by Paris and Rotterdam and the UN. So it's a really cool kind of first place to screen it. Don't know when the podcast comes out because this is not announced yet, but
that's fine. We can
scrub it.
Yeah. You tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Really yes, and I'm writing my first novel. This is my first novel, but that's a bit in the like seeing what comes to you in the silence phase. I'm a bit. I'm not stressing.
Okay.
I got a bit stuck, so I've said, okay, let's go and do some other things. Shot a documentary. I'm finding my inspiration has come
Are you even a writer
back.
if you don't have writer's block?
Exactly.
No.
And it's my first time having it. So I'm like, okay.
I'm legit now.
I'm legit now. I'm a real writer.
You have so much going on. That's incredible. And I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
You inspire me so much.
Oh my gosh, thank
Honestly,
you.
I wish you so much success.
Likewise.
I'm
I wish you
rooting for
all
you,
of the success.
and I love everything you're doing.
Thank you so much.
There is, finally, I know you've got this practice of writing letters to yourself, which you talk about in your book. And you share this really empowering extract from one of your letters. And I wanted to ask if you would be so kind as to read it as we close out the episode.
Oh my God. To my daughter, I wish you a life of glorious, mutinous simplicity. I wish for you a bike with 3 wheels that you wobble and ride, the gap in your teeth and the wind in your fro, your own brand of special. Your signature, shall we say, as you ride not a bike, but a chariot, queen of a world where simplicity rules, where kindness prevails and possibility fuels you because nothing is off limits. You would never consider it so. And you don't. You pedal furiously into class and sit up straight as you learn, curious with your questions and dedicated with your task of finding out why flowers of all colours bloom from buds that are green and how the letters from the alphabet join together to write your name. Your own name. The beauty of that. I hope that you wear it like a badge of honour, that you will say it with pride as the spidery letters flow into joined up handwriting and the day that you're allowed to use a pen for the first time. And use it you will as you write letters and notes and stories, writing your world in the mud and the sand, crafting playdates and sleepovers. And soon, you won't need that 3rd wheel anymore as your chariot flies without support. But never fear, I'm here. If you need me, if you fall, I'll be there. That's what my dad said when I learned to ride my 2-wheeler bike, and he turned to me and told me, you don't need your daddy anymore. But Daddy, I told him, confused at his reasoning and ready to put him right. But Daddy, I do when I fall. My daughter, I hope you fly high for eternity, but I promise you this, it's okay if you fall. Do not worry, even when your heart breaks and you think you may never be whole again, because you will. And you might cry, but that's okay, because crying is allowed for you, my daughter. I wish for you tears of joy when you get on an aeroplane for the first time alone, seeing worlds that so far were nothing more than a dream. And that when you see them, something in you clicks and connects. This is part of your becoming, a wise woman once said. And you bring this becoming home with you to a summer of sweaty, exhilarating parties and nightclubs using your older cousin's ID. And when your exam results come in, you might cry because you put every piece of your heart into them. Or maybe you didn't, but it doesn't matter. The world is yours now. And you're leaving home with nothing but a notepad and a backpack and a heart full of stars, to places where learning happens, the kind you find in books that open your mind, but also the kind you find in not enough sleep and friends that you meet by chance. And from the moment you look at each other, you'll know that this is a soulmate, best mate till death do us part kind of thing. You'll laugh till you cry, and cry when life comes around hard. And it might. But I wish for you that it will never hit you harder than you can withstand. And that one day you'll look back on those moments, take a deep breath, breathe out the sorrow, and breathe in the light of a you that feels right. I wish for you love that holds you to account and holds you to the light and holds you when you're breaking, even if you don't know how to articulate it. I pray that you learn how to articulate it. I pray that you will never need to hold your voice for fear of being too much. You could never be too much, my daughter. And I pray that in these magical, messy years of becoming, that you don't work too hard, that you remember to see the sunsets and sleep, and sometimes to say no. Sometimes it is good to say no. I wish you good hair, good food, good conversations, and I wish that you walk into any workplace you choose with your head held high and your hair higher, because you exude professional, no matter what you look like. You have nothing to prove. You'll never have anything to prove. I wish you sunsets, late nights, good coffee, long runs, defending yourself when you know you're right, saying sorry when you know you're wrong, meeting new people, staying home, staying in, concerts, art exhibitions, football matches, not getting out of bed all day. I wish you the freedom and the bravery to dare to try whatever it is that you like without knowing how it will work out or even caring, and feeling good in yourself, in your body, with wealth in more ways than money. It's a generational thing. I wish for you a foundation that you can build up from, and that your grandmother will stand in your golden tower and look out in silent, joyful amazement, weeping for the sights that she never saw while she was down in the basement, building brick by brick. Her faint hope that one day you and I might see the sky and the light and the sun rise from these heights. Death is silence, and silence scares you. But silence can be golden. We can be peaceful. We don't have to be interrupted. We do not always have to be interrupted. I want you to know, my daughter, that what connects us will outlast their politics and their lawmaking and their life-taking. We can take too. I want you to take this thread of gold that ties you to me and me to your grandmother, who weaves pure silk as she sits with your great-grandmother and your great-great-grandmother and Melinda Russell, Michaela Cole, Mary McLeod Bethune and Breonna Taylor, Nina Simone, Hattie McDaniel, Phyllis Wheatley-Peters, Wangari Maathai, ad infinitum. These women are in you right now. So how can anyone tell you that you are not destined for greatness? You are greatness. It is yours. And these are the things I wish for you. Nothing much, just the usual. Glorious, mutinous simplicity.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on this podcast. Thank you for your words. Thank you for everything.
Thank you for having me. It's been so wonderful.
It's been the best.
My soul is
so full.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please do hit the follow button and leave a rating and review. It makes such a difference, and it personally just means so much to me. Thank you.